Hello, welcome to another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace, reporting live here at the Roxy here in New York City. Blessing the band stage downstairs here at the Roxy at the famous Jangle Jazz Club is guitarist Nir Felder. Now, Nir Felder has played with some very important stalwarts in the jazz game, ranging from the great Greg Osby to Terry Lyne Carrington and Esperanza Spaulding. He has a brand new record which he just released on Rope-A-Dope Records titled 2, and it's a continuation of the very first album which he released almost 6 years ago. Tonight he is playing some very, very important music with the Nir Felder Standards Trio featuring the legendary James Genius on bass as well as the great Joe Farnsworth on drums. Tonight I had a chance to sit down to break bread with him briefly to talk about this brand new record, his reflections on playing the Strat, which is really affiliated with the blues and rock and roll, as well as some of his very important heroes and mentors in jazz. So sit back, relax, and enjoy highlights of the Nir Felder Standards Trio performing live here at the Jangle here at the Roxy Hotel, featuring the legendary James Genius on bass and Joe Farnsworth on drums, live here on the Pace Report here in New York City. This album is what, 6 years in the making? What took so long?
Man, to be honest, you know, the real issue is that it's hard for me to put myself first. I love being a musician. I love playing in bands. I love crafting other people's music, and I feel so fortunate and blessed to be able to do it and make a career out of it. It's been hard for me to say no, because the opportunities I've had are incredible. So when someone calls and says, hey, do you want to do this great thing, it's hard for me to stop and say, you know what, I can't. I'm going to, you know, be investing my time in myself.
You know, another thing that's really kind of crazy is the fact that this album is diametrically different from your debut record. Explain to my viewers what you decided to do differently on number 2.
The first time around, I was working with Aaron Parks on piano, who was just such an incredible pianist. And when I brought, you know, the music out for the second one, he was not available for the first 7 gigs and rehearsals, and we kind of felt irreplaceable. So I started playing music as a trio, which was so fun, and I'm still doing that to this day. I love it. But when it came time to make the record, I kind of missed some of the colors, some of the richness and texture in the piano. So I just added a lot of layers. I added a lot of guitars, I added keyboards, I added kind of whatever, you know, I was hearing at the time. It was such a fun process. And it kind of reminded me of like the rock and roll records I grew up listening to, which were like very produced and had all these kind of sweeteners to make the song come alive more. So the song is still the song at its core as a trio piece, but all these things I hope bring out the song even more. They kind of help tell the story.
Nir, do you find yourself being more enthralled being a band leader, or do you find yourself more enthralled writing and composing for your band? Because that process is different. You know, coming up with notes and coming up with musical ideas, and then too trying to execute them with your band.
I was trying to explain this to someone earlier tonight, actually. It's like, the only time I ever get nervous these days is when I have to do something with my own group. The only time I ever get nervous is when I have to like bring my music in front of a band. Playing with other people can be in front of, you know, 1 million people, can be televised. I just don't get nervous anymore. But playing my own stuff is just so personal and vulnerable that, you know, it's a trip. So the writing process, the whole process, I love it all, because there's no feeling like that. Hearing your own music played, writing your own music and being really happy with it and performing it. It's the hardest thing for me to do, but it's also this, you know, kind of unique reward, you know, that you can only get in that one way. So like, you know, we met with Keon, so, you know, that's someone who played with everybody in the world, but now he's doing his own thing. It's so beautiful because his thing is so him, it's so special. And, you know, I think he knows he can never really get that feeling from playing with other people. As much as he loves it, is successful at it, is one of the greatest in the world at it. I'm not putting myself in that category, but I love playing with other people, but there's something so special about doing it.
We are going to put you in that category because you played with some stellar heavyweights over there. We'll get to that in a second. Tonight, I noticed, because I've seen you play with a lot of musicians, and the Standards trio is remarkable in the sense that you got James Genus and you've got, who's on the drums? Joe Farnsworth on drums. And I find it interesting that you went from playing everything that you do to going back to the tradition of how the trio and Great American Songs. What was it about this trio that you wanted to do tonight? And are you going to do something, a record a project like this in the future?
Man, I have so many ideas about stuff I want to record that I can't wait to get to, and I will get to it. This is just fun. It's just fun to come to a place like this club, hang out with my friends, with James and Joe, and just play. And we don't have to rehearse. We're just getting up there and making music, and like some fun stuff happens, you know, in the moment. And it's just nice to get to that later from the jump. So, you know, we all came on playing standards. You know, we'll never let that go. It was really fun.
Half a love never never appealed to me. If your heart never could yield to me, then I'd rather have nothing at all. Oh, nothing at all. If it's love, there is no in between. Why begin then cry for something that might have been? No, I'd rather have nothing at all. Please don't put your lips so close to my cheek. Don't smile or I'll be lost beyond recall. The touch of your hand, the look in your eyes makes me weak, and my heart might grow dizzy and fall. And if I fell under the spell of your call, I'd be so lost in the undertow. So, you see, I've got to say no, no.
You come from Katonah, New York. How did the guitar come into your sound?
Well, you know, I grew up, I was raised kind of by MTV. You know, I went home from school and I just watched hours and hours of Headbangers Ball, 120 minutes, here on MTV Raps, if anybody remembers that stuff. It was the 80s, MTV was
I remember all of that.
Yeah. So at some point, a guy came into my middle school and played the guitar, and he was like a young kid trying to get some students, and I was like, I want to do that. I was hooked from the first note, so I was 13, and it's been that ever since.
Because you could have played any kind of guitar, but you chose the Strat as your. How did that happen?
Man, you know what? That was my first guitar. I wanted to play that guitar because I loved Eric Clapton and Jimi Hendrix, later Stevie Ray Vaughan. But I really tried to, when I started getting into jazz, you know, everyone told me you can't play that. You need to get an arch top, you need to get a hollow body. I really tried, but I couldn't find one that I connected with. And I connected with this guitar, and I still feel connected to it. So as a kid, that was kind of a lot on me because I felt all this pressure to change, to do it the way everyone else had done it. But it just didn't work for me. I knew it wasn't right for me. So that was tough. That was a tough road.
Well, Mike Stern has had a hell of a career playing the Strat. I mean, and he's like you guys can. The Strat is one of those guitars and one of those instruments that could go with the blues, could go with jazz, could go with fusion, could go with rock. It's like there's no one way to play it. You can play the guitar a million different ways, and all these young people are doing it in ways I could never have conceived of. It's amazing. I saw an interview with you online, and you had all these guitars in the background.
Oh yeah.
So I'm just wondering, you play the Strat, but you have all these other guitars.
They're all on the record. You know, they're all. I use them in the studio all the time. I use them for different purposes, but that Strat is all. It's like my home base. You know what I mean?
Do you recommend other guitarists starting off to play the Strat? What do you do? What do you tell a young musician who's not fluid with rock and roll or jazz and blues, and they want to play the guitar?
I would say find what you truly love, and don't compromise. Don't settle for what you think you're supposed to do. Being a musician, like I see so many musicians, they take the plunge and they go all the way to the end, where they say, "Oh well, you know, I'm going to be a musician and take this leap of faith, but I'm not really going to play the music I like. Or I'm not going to play the guitar I like." Or you know, you get this close, but then you don't take it all the way, and that's such a shame to me because the whole purpose of it is for you to express yourself in your own unique way. So whatever speaks to you, that is, you know, explore until you find that thing. And then if you love it and you believe in it, it's like, you know, believe in yourself and trust yourself that is what's right for you.
John Scofield was a very important influence musically. Sco is one of the baddest swinging cats out there.
Yeah.
What was it about Sco, and how did you get exposed to John Scofield?
Sco is one of the first guys I ever heard in the jazz field because he's from that town you mentioned, Katonah. He lives there. So, you know, before I even was really playing guitar, I knew about him and knew who he was. And I still love his playing so much. He's so funky and groovy, and he plays the guitar like a guitar. You know, he's so connected to the jazz tradition, and he can sound like a pianist, he sound like a tenor saxophone, but ultimately, he's not trying to sound like anybody else but him. It's like,
you're right.
Yeah.
I don't hear anybody that play like Scofield, or I don't hear anybody play like Matheny. I hear clones, but they're truly authentic what they do.
Those
like what you do.
Special. Yeah, those are my heroes, you know, amongst others, but you know, those are huge influences, both those guys.
Let's talk about the education component. You are now about to teach at your alma mater, Berklee, Boston. You and I are pretty much around the same age. What is it that you're going to teach the next generation of musicians how to think, and as far as the history part? What is it that you're going to do moving forward when you go back to this fall?
I'm going to do it differently than the way I learned. I'm making a very conscious decision. When I was there, I was kind of told that you had to be perfect or else you would never make it. You had to kind of like sheath yourself in this kind of armor where you could like never make a mistake, and that was the only way you were going to survive in New York. And what I learned is that that's very much not the case. You have to be actually the opposite. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to take risks and make mistakes. You know, perfect is boring, right? You know, you need to, you know, if you know every song, how are you going to get up on the bandstand and not know the song but learn it by ear on the fly? You know, that's how you grow. You know, you're in these uncomfortable situations where you say, oh no, I'm out of my element, but I'm going to make it work. You know, those are the experiences that grow you. You know, you don't have to be perfect. You can do it just as you are, but you just have to be open. So that's kind of the aesthetic that I'm taking up there.
You know, I set the piece up. You played with everybody: Greg Osby, Esperanza, Spaulding, Meshell N'degeocello, Jack DeJohnette. These musical icons I just named, they're all over the music stratosphere. How have those musicians and those experiences shaped you as a musician?
That's a great question. You know, talking about that, what we were just talking about like being perfect and being able to play every style, it's not about that. It's about taking what you have, who you are, and applying that. Like, I think about, you know, another hero, Joe Lovano, right? You put him in any context, he always sounds incredible, but he always sounds like him. He's not trying to sound like a different player on different gigs. And that's kind of been my default, because I don't know how to sound like anybody else. So I just try to sound like myself, but tailor it to the, you know, the big picture things of the gig. What are the dynamics like? What are the textures like? What are the, you know, the big picture things? It's not about, you know, it's about nuance, but it's also about like, how do we approach rhythm? How do we approach sound? How do we approach volume? And that's different from artist to artist. But, you know, I always try to just bring this. That's all I can bring.
The band stage is definitely how you cut your teeth, man. I mean,
Yeah.
That's something too. I think Boston is going to help you out with this next tooling of the generation. Are you completely happy with the next generation of musicians playing this music?
Man, I have to say that, you know, I hear most of them online. I don't hear most of them playing, and that is because I think they don't have the opportunities that we've had. They sound incredible on it. They know how to craft these incredible videos that blow my mind. I've heard people say that they can't actually play live the way, you know, our generation was before, because they don't do it as much. That makes sense. I don't know if that's true because I haven't heard many of them play live. But that would make sense, you know, just the way we can't make videos the way they make videos. So I don't really know the answer to that. I know there's a lot of amazing talent out there right now, young, incredible talent, and they're going to change the world. They already are.
Nir Felder, what does jazz music mean to you?
To me, jazz music is just, all music is about expressing yourself, emotion, trying to connect with the people around you, the audience. I've been on a lot of pop tours, rock tours, and sometimes the musicians to me are more jazz than some jazz musicians that I've played with, because every night tonight, it's different. It's like maybe the room's a little different, maybe the audience is a little bit different, you feel a little different, and they do these subtle things where they express that. It doesn't have to be one certain way. It's that freedom, it's that connectedness to emotion. So of course, all the best jazz musicians do. That's their vocabulary. But jazz has become so codified, so academic, that some people just play the scales, they play the songs, they play the whatever, arpeggios, and they think that's jazz. But to me, that's not it. It's those other things. And sometimes other musicians get that in the way jazz musicians don't.
Do you think that we need to change the dynamic of that, or change the narrative of that? I mean, because you are right. I have feel. Sometimes I see musicians and they're too, for lack of better words, is too technical. It's like they're not free like you're supposed to be on that band stage. And I believe that sometimes education can actually cripple a student when it comes to them playing and developing their technique.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I don't know if it's like, sometimes when people talk about this, it sounds like we're mad at education. I'm not mad at education. I'm grateful that knowledge is being spread, but it can't be spread only on a blackboard with pencil and paper. It's like a living, breathing thing, and you have to do it. Just like if you're learning chemistry, you can only look at the textbook so much. You have to get in the lab. So this is our lab.
That'll do it again for another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace, reporting live here at the Roxy Hotel here in New York City. I'd like to personally congratulate and thank the talented Nir Felder for his time. Please support his brand new record too, which is on Rope-A-Dope Records and is available on iTunes, Amazon.com, and CD Baby. Also support Nir in his upcoming tour. For more information, please visit him online on his social media at nirfelder.com. Also, people, I'd like to personally congratulate and thank the staff and management here at the Roxy, as well as the Django, for their warm hospitality. Please visit my website, thepacereport.com, for my weekly column and my past segments, as well as like, share, and subscribe, and leave comments on the Pace Report and these segments here on YouTube and Vimeo. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Till next time, peace.
Thank you.